welcome everyone. For those of you who are new to this initiative, the STEM Learning Ecosystems Community of Practice, the SLECoP, supported by TIES, which you can find at stemecosystems.org. Someone will drop that link in the chat. Harnesses the power of business and industry, funders and foundations, K-12 schools, higher education, out-of-school time, state, local, federal government, and more to find solutions to common problems and to build thriving communities. The SLECoP is focused on being an inclusive STEM community that champions access to innovation, opportunity, equity, and lifelong learning. Our first interview today is with, and my phone is ringing, sorry guys. Our first interview today is with Jan Morrison, the founder and CEO of the Teaching Institute for Excellence in STEM, TIES. And with over 3 decades of dedication to STEM education, Jan's leadership has influenced national and global initiatives from the National STEM Funders Network to designing digital fabrication labs in schools worldwide. A former science teacher and principal, Jan's mission is really clear: empower all children with a college work-ready education and to ignite the passion for STEM. And something that's not in my notes here, but Jan always says, is that her whole purpose in life is to help young people make sense of the world. And that's what we really do as a community, as an organization, and I think what all of you do in your work. So Jan, could you talk to us a little bit about your vision for the future of STEM and how the STEM Learning Ecosystems Community of Practice has kind of evolved over its, gosh, almost 10 years?
Thanks, Jeremy. This is my favorite webinar. It's so exciting to be together again today. Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year. It's still January. I can do that for another day or two. Very important to see everybody and to be with you. Welcome to all the new ecosystems, of which there are many. And to those of you who are new to the ecosystems, who are mature and have been with us for quite a while. So what does STEM look like? Well, so let's remember, we're into the 3rd decade of the acronym itself. Remember where it came from? Remember we were saying, those of us who are way back when said, no, not stem cells. That's where we came from. What are we doing now? It's way past science, technology, engineering, and math as an academic pursuit. What it is really is the ability and a mindset to solve problems, of which are mounting on our planet as we speak. It is also the ability for us to hone new innovative tools that help us to engage our planet, to engage each other, to engage our youth, and to engage our futures. We now speak about that as emerging technologies, and that list is growing. That's the AI, quantum, data science, cybersecurity, CS for all world, of which I'm sure we'll tag on a few more as we continue. That's important because the more that when we think about STEM as a mindset, the more it acts in ways that bring in the emerging technologies, the reduction or the reduced opportunity, or it reduces the chance that the emerging technologies are going to be siloed. Remember what we speak about in ecosystems, why the term ecosystem was used, not network, not collaborative. Ecosystem is a series of cross-sector partners and interdependencies. Anybody who is an environmentalist and knows what an ecosystem is, we care about those interdependencies. So Jeremy, when we're talking about STEM, the tent has widened again, the table, and it is emerging technologies as well. So it is not us looking off and seeing them. It is got to be our invitation to bring them in to where we are, to who we all are, and incumbent upon us to then take up a STEM mindset to figure out how we leverage this for our ecosystems.
That's something that I think has been really exciting about the work of all of our ecosystems, is that they all seem to have this kind of dual focus on kind of the narrow definition of STEM, because we need some of that, right? There's job pipelines and those kind of discrete skills, but also the broad definition of STEM. How do we teach young people to be problem solvers, problem finders? How do we apply these skills to sort of any career path? Jan, and I know that's been sort of a cornerstone of your work and Ty's work, and that's sort of has in one new way kind of come to a head with something that goes vroom vroom.
It is something that goes vroom vroom. So classic, right? We have a run of show for today. We wouldn't want to go off script with you. You're here with us for reasons. This morning, right at the crack of dawn, we got an email that says, guess what? The NSF engines grants have been released, and ties and our partners in certain ecosystems are part of one of the engines grants, Great Lakes Renew, and it is my great privilege, honor, and incredible excitement to tell you all we won it. So it's one of a few 10-year longitudinal 160 million I have all the different papers here to read to you what we're going to do. We're going to study water. We're going to know how to make those lakes better than they've ever been. And we're going to connect the ecosystems that are around all 6 Great Lakes to their lakes so that our children in all of our ecosystems don't ask what lake when you ask them if they've been in Lake Erie or at Michigan. And so the announcement went out today, and a big shout out to Sadie Norwick from our team who has helped with that, as well as Alyssa. But we aren't the only ones, Jeremy. Engines are in a lot of other ecosystems. In Central Florida was announced, Colorado, Louisiana, in North Carolina, in North Dakota, in the Piedmont area, in Southwest, and in upstate New York, and there are more coming. And so what we're excited about is in asking me what STEM is in this country and where our ecosystems are going, is that we are now living that interdependence, that ecosystem model, and that community of practice. Together, we provide opportunities. We make our planet better. We have gone from the local programming vision to being able to be together to make these kinds of things happen. This is CHIPS money. We talked about this forever. There's all kinds of other opportunities that this will leverage over a decade of working together. So it is the demonstration also of access in action, which is where we are with Chicago as we head to our event and our convening. So I don't want to take up a lot of time. I will say congratulations to you ecosystems throughout our country who probably don't even know that you're on the Engines grant or that you're near an Engines grant. Well, here you go. Now we can be hand in hand and figuring out how to do this a good job. But wait one more minute. We can't have all this great STEM stuff, eclipse the fact that now we have to shout out to Kansas City and to San Francisco for the Super Bowl, and greatest regrets to Buffalo, to Cleveland, to Detroit, and to Baltimore. I cared a lot, and I have to say it. Next year, go Browns. So all yours, Jeremy.
Everyone here in Cleveland really thought this was going to be the year. So witnessing the remarkable growth of the SLECoP initiative, as evidenced by things like this announcement, Jan, is really inspiring. And I think we maybe should take a little bit of a closer look at the pulse of our community, the individuals molding its present, its future. And I think to lead us through that, Jan, you have some faces that aren't new to me, but are new to many of the folks here on this call to introduce.
Thanks, Jeremy. Let me take a moment. It's a very, very proud moment, an excited moment, where I want to introduce you to the new team that is leading the STEM learning ecosystem community of practice. We all celebrated Xan as she moved to grandchildren. And in fact, there's another one that just was born last week, and just happy for her. But it also gave us the opportunity to bring in partners and leadership to the community of practice itself. So let me introduce you to Jenny Conklin-Frank, who will direct the community of practice, to Mwape Trinell, who will be the Deputy Director for Engagement as well. And at FACE, who you've seen before, is Noah Russ, who is will direct the international, which is growing by the moment. So welcome to you, and they will tell you much more about themselves. And we can also answer questions about the work in the future. But at the moment, it's really important for everybody on this call to welcome our new faces, but also to get to know them really very well if you don't already.
All right, so Jenny and Mwape, I've known both of you for years now, and it's been my pleasure to work with you on a number of initiatives. So building on what Jan just shared about the journey of the SLECOP, can you tell us a little bit more about yourselves, your roles in the SLEP? What fuels your passion for STEM? What do you bring to the table, guys? Everyone wants to know, what do you bring into the table? We're going to hear some more from Noah in a little bit, but for now, I want to learn a little bit more about Jenny and Mwape.
Thank you, Jeremy. I really appreciate it. And I am so incredibly excited to be here, but I must admit, I feel humbled to be here. And the reason for that is that I just have personally, professionally, as well as personally, such a passion for STEM and, the importance of making sure that every learner has an opportunity to learn about STEM. And yes, just like Jan was talking about earlier, become skilled, maybe find themselves in a STEM workforce. But I really strongly believe in the importance of just STEM literacy, right? About understanding about our world, about caring about our world, and being really productive members of our entire world ecosystem. So to get an opportunity every single day to be with individuals who share in the same passion, but are also doing things about it is, like, for me, it's honestly a dream come true. So I am joining the team as the director of the STEM Learning Ecosystems Communities of Practice. I will tell you that I have come on board on January 1st, and I've spent the last 3 weeks mastering how to actually say that title in a way that I'm not tripping up on the words. I think I've gotten there. I'm also working alongside Mwape as well as Noah and the rest of the TIES team. And, my background obviously is I have a large experience, 20 years in education, serving as a science teacher, professional developer, administrator, building and district level. But my first experience in STEM, honestly, was at the Buffalo Zoo. And in an informal setting, an out of school setting. And that is where I just absolutely fell in love with the power that STEM has, the excitement, the engagement, the twinkle in kids' eyes when they are just surrounded with things that they love and care about. And so I have to, say that although I do have strong connection and I have some experience and I'm excited to work with all of our educational partners, that in all of the work that I do, I always seem to ground myself. I seem to remember, that twinkle, that light in learners' eyes. And that's what I'm always trying to get back to, right? Is give back to kids, give them opportunities, help them to believe in themselves, to build their confidence, and to recognize that, anything is possible if you put your mind to it. I feel like, Jeremy, we should have the anything is possible sound effect there. I'm sure he'll find that in just a little bit. So really briefly before I turn, thank you. Before I turn it over to Mwape to introduce ourselves, I kind of wanted to just add a little transition, is that Mwape and I and Noah, as well as the whole entire TIES team, have been really digging in to the incredible work done by the community of practice over the last 10 years. And we're just so incredibly impressed obviously I keep using the word humbled because there are so many great minds working together. So I did want to just, share my screen for a second to, honor the work of the LC2 and the SAC community, who have done such a great job of creating just an overview of some a strategic identity, as well as some goals that we want to achieve, obviously in this year and as we move forward as a community of practice. And I think the thing that grounded me the most is this piece over here that says how we do it. And I think that that's what makes this community of practice so special, is that we build and grow these communities, these ecosystems, that we work to strengthen our relationships, that we foster, we provide space for innovation to happen, and we share our successes, we share our challenges, we share our joys with one another. I felt like this really spoke to the essence of all of the work that this group does and continues to do as a community. The second thing that I wanted to share with you is that all of those ecosystems that Exan worked with to do the listening tours, that we have listened to those interviews. We've tried our best to really absorb and understand, the current successes, but also those challenges, and to find ways that we can, as a team, support you. Because I think at the end of the day, that is what we're looking to do, is use our experiences, leverage our connections and relationships to be able to work together to move the needle forward in a much more collaborative, efficient, effective, and impactful way. So again, thank you all for the incredible work that you have already done to make STEM available to learners out there everywhere. All the partnerships that you've made with businesses and organizations and communities, and being innovative and change thinkers every single day. We cannot wait to learn from you, to support you, and work with you in the future. So with that, I am going to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Mwape.
Thanks so much, Jenny. My name is Mwape Trunell, and I've been with TIES for a little under a year working on the programmatic side of things, introducing subjects such as design thinking, cloud computing, cybersecurity, to name a few, provided by different organizations that we collaborate with. During this time, I've developed a deep appreciation for the work that TIES does, and I'm awed by the dedication and commitment of the ecosystems. I am honored to be taking on this role with the community of practice and excited about the work we will do together in the days ahead. As a young girl growing up in Zimbabwe, where learning opportunities were few and far between, for me, I can appreciate the need that exists to bring these opportunities to the fore and make them accessible to all. My journey into STEM has been colored by curiosity, great conversations, reading everything I could possibly get my hands on to help understand what those conversations have meant, their impact, and the direction that the world is taking. It is clear to me that the future is here and we have to adapt. So here I am, learning, trying to keep up, ready to affect change in a positive manner, and having fun along the way. A proud graduate of the City University of New York, I attained both my undergraduate and graduate degrees at Hunter College and the Graduate Center, respectively. Fueled by a world that is increasingly interdependent and the ever-growing divide between what is needed and the talent pipeline to fulfill it, we have a lot of work ahead of us. So I am so grateful to be a part of this effort, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Mwape. We're going to hear more from both of you for the rest of this hour. But before we do, I want to bring back our friend. You all know her, Noah. Noah's been engaged in education for over 20 years, believing in constant learning, collaborations, engagement, and more than all of that in people. Noah's been a member of the TIES team of global consultants for several years, managing the relationship and activities of TIES within the international STEM ecosystem. And Noah, I know that this international component of the SLECOP work has just been growing and growing. I finally got to hang out with you in real life again last week, and it was very exciting to hear about your plan. So let's share a little bit about that. What should we be looking forward to on the international side?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jeremy. And welcome, Jenny and Wape. I'm so happy you joined TIES, and I look forward to our collaborative work. I'm confident that great things await for the following year. So currently, SLECOP's activities are taking place on 5 continents, spanning 6 countries: BC, Colombia, Mexico, Kenya, Iceland, Israel, and Colombia, which recently joined just a few months ago. In May, at the last convening in Jacksonville, the international SLE leaders decided to form a joint group. And as part of my role, I'm happy to support this group. Since then, we have been meeting monthly to deepen our knowledge for each other, learn from one another, and empower each other to promote quality STEM education worldwide. We discussed issues like STEM policy and our role as an ecosystem, budgeting and funding, of course, cross-sector work and ecosystem function during crisis or areas under high violence. We found similarities and differences in each subject and tried to model the idea around common principles that can promote any ecosystem. For example, we are currently working on a booklet that will include a functional model for an ecosystem during emergencies and crises. The model will be based on case studies of ecosystem leaders in the field and will support any ecosystems needing it. Many, many wonderful and impactful things are happening under the leadership of the ecosystem leaders over the world. Some of this had spotlight in the SLECOP weekly newsletter that probably you've seen. These are just examples and try to be very short. And ahead of us is a year of expansions. And I think Jen talked about it. We are accepting for some actions taking place through Europe to welcome additional ecosystems from the continent. And we anticipate to growth of the practice groups in the community and expansion of learning among all ecosystems. And just for the end, I want to send my wish. May we have a year of peace and the growth of quality education for all and everywhere. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Noah, and we look forward to hearing more from you. And one of the things that you mentioned, we were all talking that I'm sort of excited about is that part of the future phase, this isn't this instant, but that we have to move towards is to stop thinking about the international community as this sort of separate entity. And instead, we are an international community, all of the ecosystems, those in the US and abroad. And I know that's one of your major goals, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. All right, so we've got a number of topic areas that we want to dig into kind of rapid fire over the remaining, 35 minutes or so. And the first is emerging technologies. So as we look towards emerging technologies, how can the STEM learning ecosystems play a vital role in building awareness and capacity within their local communities to support the development of the skills that are essential for our next workforce? How are we getting young people and adults ready for the rapidly changing workplace with these new technologies, AI, quantum computing, on, things we haven't even thought of yet that are going to be coming faster and faster over the coming years? Lauren's going to drop a poll in the Zoom right now. It's based on the caliper scale that I think Jenny's going to talk about a little bit. But this first question is just this: how would you rate your ecosystem's capacity for leveraging emerging technologies? I want to be clear: we're not keeping track of who says what here, so be honest. It's okay if that's high. It's okay if that's low. We just want to get a good grasp on it. So, Jenny, while folks are answering that question, I know you've been working a lot with the caliper scale. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that caliper scale before we move on to our next topic?
Well, thank you, Jeremy. I think, you know, the one thing that's really interesting when you have new people coming on board, right? Especially after 3 decades of work that has already been done, right? Is being able to acclimate to not only this community, to find your way, to find your place inside of, you know, a community that is so action oriented, but it's also around, you know, understanding the community language. And, you know, one of the things that I pulled out immediately from Caliper, obviously a measurement tool to really kind of, you know, understand the health of an ecosystem, were these words of engagement and participation. So while you're kind of seeing that poll, you're going to see things like informing, which again, that's a role and something that ecosystems are required to do, right? You could also be a consultant. So not only are you informing, but you're also providing consultation. Involving, that's that next level of participation engagement where, you know, you have multiple people together involved in some kind of action. Collaborate, and then we move to the last piece, which is that empowerment, where all stakeholders are not only part of talking about and identifying challenges, but coming up with real solutions to those challenges. And I think that that's, you know, our first piece in emerging technology. You know, as an ecosystem, we are not only charged with the idea of preparing learners today with a workforce that we can define and describe today, but we're also charged with this huge task of preparing them for a workforce that we can't even define and describe yet. So, you know, when I think about some of the things that we need to be talking about as a community of practice, some of the challenges that we are all going to face is, where do we find ourselves in the conversation of emerging technology? How do we support our communities in becoming aware and building their capacity for the importance of this? If we're thinking about supporting our learners with giving them opportunities, with giving them access, and ensuring that they find a place not only in STEM or career or workforce, but hopefully that they find a place inside that community, a community where they are giving back, a community where they're filling and giving pride. So that's kind of why we wanted to add this question in here and kind of gauge. I think that it's some work that we're going to do using practice groups around some really important and challenging questions that we have. And just like Jeremy said at the beginning, how do we take access, making sure that every learner has access to STEM, high quality STEM, and then what we do about it as a community of practice. So again, looking at the poll, thank you very, very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Mwape, or maybe she can shed some light around some of the current initiatives that are happening at TIES, as well as through the community of practice. Jeremy, I just took your question for you. You're welcome.
Thanks so much, Jenny. The SLECoP is committed to learning and development. So we focus on resource allocation that aligns with the needs and demographics that the ecosystems express a desire to have implemented in their communities. So these have included AI, robotics, coding, engineering pathways, project management, as well as mindfulness, which has been hugely popular with both young and adult learners alike. To piggyback on what Jenny said, the ecosystems have done a tremendous amount of work in bringing together business partners, programs, and opportunities. But a permeating theme has been the ability to effectively share this information and these opportunities within their communities. So what we want to do is to see how best we can assist in this effort. We're also bringing together professional development opportunities for educators in the school districts that we work with, as well as adult learners. And we want to make sure that these are readily available in staying ahead of the curve with the new technologies, networking, skill building, as well as upskilling, reskilling, and skilling. So we range from fourth graders to create apps to solve problems in their communities, high schoolers learning and earning industry recognized credentials, via virtual learning in platforms such as after-school programs, which allows for access to many. And seniors as well, in acquainting them with the emerging technologies, not least of all, of course, educators with whom we work hand in glove, as they are the connective tissue on which we rely. So at TIES, we run the gamut, and we will continue to share these opportunities and with our ecosystems as they become available.
Well, thank you, Mwape. So I know that the next thing we wanted to talk about is something we talk about a lot in the STEM ecosystem initiative, and that's the future of workforce. It's a constantly moving target. It's a constantly reshaping pathway. And the future of workforce is a really crucial aspect of our work. So today we're delving into how these ecosystems are strategically planning for workforce success at local, regional, and national levels, and how they're shaping pathways to provide learners with diverse opportunities. Jenny, I'm wondering if you could give us a little bit of an overview of why workforce planning is so integral to the mission of STEM learning ecosystems, and what folks should be thinking about and doing.
You know, I'm going to approach this kind of from my educator lens and, just to think about, the idea of providing access and awareness, right, to workforce opportunity. Thinking about myself as a middle school teacher, science teacher in middle school, as well as high school. But there was a certain job that I needed to get done within that day. And I tried my very hardest to to weave in and to share the opportunities and engage students in thinking about career and thinking about where they see themselves in the future. And I got to admit, like, that's a hard job, right? To be able to be, great at delivering the content and creating a community of learning in the classroom on top of this other layer of bringing in career. And what it made me realize is that I can't do this alone, right? I cannot help and shape the opportunities available to young learners by myself. I'm not the expert, and I don't always have opportunities for exploration within my classroom. And so for me, that's where I was so incredibly fortunate to be able to partner with out of school learning opportunities. And to me, that is what an ecosystem has such a powerful moment in time to provide learners with, right? Is that laser focus in talking about strengths, your interests, in talking about your future, and making sure that kids everywhere, young adults, young learners, know that they have voice and that they have choice and that they are the decision makers of their future. And so for me, that is exactly the work that we should be thinking about, even further than the idea of the pathways, right? Which again, sometimes those pathways can do such a great job of building awareness, building capacity. But how are we opening up those pathways even more to really leverage this idea of exploration, discovery, and the fact that we might change our ideas, our minds about who we want to be and what we want to be in our future space. Another thing I think that is really important to be thinking about as learning ecosystems is this continuum of learning, right? It's not just about the beginning of the learning journey for learners, but that recognizing in our society, in our community, that learning is a lifelong pursuit. And in order to be, skilled, to be an active member of the workforce, we've got to recognize, we have to embrace that scaling up our skills is the future of what workforce professional learning looks like. And so I think that those are the two spaces that I really think we can do a lot of work around and support each other, is how are we going to engage our learners so that they know that there are unlimited opportunities, and how are we going to engage our communities to let them know that we support them in their current and future workforce ideas. And we are going to ask you to do one last poll, and I'm going to ask Lauren to put that up now, using the same scale that we just talked about: inform, consult, involve, collaborate, empower. Thinking about what we just talked about, what do you think? How would you rate your ecosystem's impact on community workforce development and programming? Does everyone have awareness and access to know about the opportunities, the industry, the businesses inside of your community? Do they know how to transition from school to workforce? Do they understand how to build and upscale their skills so that they can increase their career opportunities? Those are some of the things that I'd love to talk more about. Look for those opportunities and celebrate the successes, because we know that there are already amazing and innovative things happening all around the world. And if we could make sure that every single learner has access to that, wow, that would be a dream come true.
I do think it's kind of interesting that all these results have kind of this little bell curve with a little bump up in the beginning on the informed side. I'm really excited to see what our friend William says about these kind of moment in time results and how they relate to the national work. But as folks are still finishing that up and looking at those results, Wape, we've been discussing the significance of workforce planning and pathways within STEM learning ecosystems. Can we dive a little bit into the importance of understanding our community landscapes and the opportunities for innovation within those? I'm wondering if you can share your insights on how grasping the local landscape can be really a game changer in this work.
Sure. Thanks, Jeremy. Without this knowledge, we cannot have a thoughtful and deliberate approach to deal with what is going on in the communities. While the fundamentals that apply across the board, such as access to all these offerings, matter, a one-size-fits-all approach does not work. So to effectively plan and implement the STEM opportunities, our first step will be conducting this landscape analysis to gain a deeper understanding of the strengths, needs, and where we best fit in to align and help our fellow ecosystems. And in that vein, we will be implementing a data analysis via mapping and utilizing ArcGIS to inform the decisions regarding workforce coordination. To that end, I would like to introduce Jarrell from Henry Ford's Innovation Atlas, who is best able to walk us through this. This is innovative, it's game-changing in our pursuit of an equitable future. And Jarrell, I'll pass that on over to you.
Hi, thank you, everyone. It's really an honor to be on this group and to share something we've been working on in the past few years. My name is Jarrell Brown, Head of Analytics and Business Intelligence at the Henry Ford. I've been there about 6 years, and I came from for-profit. I came from military analysis and active duty, and it's nice to bring all those skill sets to continue our mission here with our team is connecting people with data to make decisions, equitable decisions for the communities we work in, serve in, and support. So I'll share my screen. We can kind of go into a quick overview of the Innovation Atlas, what it has in it, and what our next steps are as far as future collaboration, growth, and engagement. I'll try to multitask with looking at both screens here, but I think we are good. All right, I think thumbs up. Okay, so here, what we are showing, there we go. What we have here is an interactive mapping tool. It's of the United States, domestic, but it visualizes education and socioeconomic barriers impacting innovation. It's a data resource for identifying inequity areas, innovation support for prioritizing certain initiatives. We have put a lot in it so far, and we're happy to expand or shrink based on user groups and audiences. But what the Innovation Atlas is a little more granular. It's a custom model that allows you to successfully identify these areas. But we came from a little while ago in 2019, where we met and with the Los Einstein's Opportunity Insights team at Harvard University, because that's when we first saw that they were beginning to quantify impact of innovation and inequity. And we'll go over what that research is. But we have been here since 2019 in partnership, starting with their research and developing it into something that potentially could have some more impact on several audiences across the nation. Now, our approach here is just to make things interactive. We leverage data of all sorts, hence ArcGIS allows us to bring in all types of data. And we bring this in because we use data to make known or assumed facts, or to learn and reason from calculations. But we use data also because they're making a lot of federal investments flowing into disadvantaged communities, the grants that your organization just has been awarded, congratulations. Some of the work that NSF is doing, you know, the reason why landscape analysis and this type of work is so important is because now we begin to level set what some of the large organizations have, what some of the businesses have, and how they're looking at data and making decisions. Could you imagine if you had the same analysis, the same tools, similar data, and a similar way to look at it as those others? We can now be at the same plate having similar conversations. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of this analysis has been done, but how is it actionalized? Is it visualized? We know that research has proven the need for your programs, partner programs, and collaborative programs. But visualizing really helps you and continue to engage with communities and partners, continue to map and analyze inequities and gain insights, to operationalize, and then to measure the impact of what you're doing and what others are doing, including investments, internal and external, for more organizations. So the why here is, you know, this was pretty much our aha moment, and we have resources where you could dig in, but essentially the green, the dark green, is where innovation rates are highest. Now, innovation for us currently, based on our partnerships, our patent rates, trademark rates, copyright rates, in addition to school engagement and performance from some validated research methods. But essentially, instead of encouraging, you know, it is nice to move to another area with better resources to get this attainment of $200,000 more in your lifetime. That's what the research identified, moving from one area to another. But what happens to those communities we move from? They become barren, they become somewhat gentrified, and less resources go into that area. So what if we brought programs, investments, and focus into the communities rather than encouraging them to leave out? So it's a hypothesis. It's a good what if that analysis, programs, and key elements can help identify, because we are losing innovation. We're losing STEM engagement, some within our minorities, but definitely within low-income families, in some areas, women, and in some areas not. So I'll stop here, and then we'll go into possibly comments. I've been talking for a little bit, but what we wanted to do is create this custom model that includes labor and statistic data, census data, the National Center of Education Statistics, resources that are in the area, solutions, the whys, and we created that custom score over every school, zip code, community, county, and then combinations of those regions, because we really wanted to help identify and outline the landscape of where we're starting. Imagine we all have the same book. We enter the same class, we have the same book, and now we're beginning to learn it together, collaboratively and in partnership. And that's what this goal, broken up in 5 categories, and what we're aimed to do here. Now, as you engage with some of these tools, we do outline the ability to overlay a lot of these attributes and a lot of these assets here. And what you're seeing now is an interactive tool with widgets, calculations, filters, and additional layers and transparency of why we are where we are. Sorry, I just filtered on Ohio because of Jan's Cleveland Browns chant. But, you know, every state is different. And what this model helps do is compare regions within each other in addition to regions nationally, because there's different whys, there's different issues, there's different barriers happening in communities, from accessibility to internet, to free and reduced lunch, to computer accessibility and mobility. But also, in addition to the why, we have potential solutions like NSF grants or resources like some of the NSF grants that were being awarded. So what we hoped and aim to do is just level set the playing field again, bringing in data to conduct landscape analysis, and then to really maybe grow your program, potentially optimize the education and game attainment and evaluation, as well as fiscal sustainability for the why. Why are things being resourced in Cleveland area, and what are the opportunities as relates to grants, partnerships, businesses, colleges and universities, cultural institutions like ourselves, and many more. I promise we have not figured this all out, but we do hope to partner and collaborate with those who are interested in kind of bridging that same gap in innovation and opportunity and upward mobility as we are.
Jarrell,
I cannot see chat. Yes.
I was just going to say thank you so much. We have had the opportunity to work with Jarrell and his team a little bit in first exposing us to this incredible platform. And I was going to say the word tool, but let's be honest, it is a platform, and the power of the platform, you know, and I love what you said earlier, this idea of helping us to identify the gaps between innovation and investment. And that's really what we're looking to do here. We feel that that is one of the challenges that we hear over and over and over again between the ecosystem listening tours, as well as just the feedback from the ecosystems that we've been talking to, is really, you know, learning from each other where we have similar demographics, we have similar outcomes in communities, and how are they succeeding through innovation? So how can we map that? And then how can we overlay that with not only federal, local grants, you know, but also funding? How do we fill in those gaps? And again, that goes back to our initiative, and that's making sure that every learner everywhere has equal access to high quality STEM. So Jan put in the comments here that we want, and we're looking for individuals to not only be part of a practice group to talk about data, and to learn about the impact of using data to solve these innovation and investment issues, but then to work as part of a working group, to be able to leverage this kind of a platform to ensure that everyone, everywhere has the same access to data that helps us to move our initiatives forward. So after this session and the days that follow up, we're going to share with you Jarrell's contact information. We're going to ask you if you want to be part of this, you know, incubation team where we're looking for ways that we can support their initiative and grow our own data literacy. And we're also looking to work with another one of these great individuals, teams of people, and that is the group at New Growth. And so I'm going to take a moment right now. We're going to switch our screen sharings over, and I want to introduce us to Chris Spence from New Growth. And what he's going to do is kind of take this idea that Jarrell has been talking to us about, really being able to define and understand the landscape, and how you can, as an ecosystem, through their support and our partnerships together, work to make this a strategic plan, work to make this actionable. So Chris, I will turn it over to you. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, and hi everybody. And Jarrell, what an awesome looking tool that is. It seems equal parts like super practical and useful, and also something where I could like lose hours just like clicking around and looking at things. It seems really cool. Yeah, so using that as a stepping off point. Data is, of course, extremely important as you're thinking about workforce and ecosystem planning. Let's see, Jenny, could you put my slides up for a second. So just a little bit to introduce who we are. We are workforce development consultants. This is a slide that we've used for years to describe the complexity of working in an ecosystem environment with many partners and many contributors. Workforce development, of course, is inherently an ecosystem activity. Next slide, please. And then just a little bit about what we do. We work in communities and in ecosystems, and we describe our services in 3 buckets: strategy, grants, and evaluation. And you can take the slide down. So just to talk for a moment about strategy, and the stepping off point, building on Jarrell's presentation of the data tool. So the utility of developing a strategic plan and thinking of it as a platform for bringing together ecosystems, it provides a great way to work with collaborators on 2 challenges that I think are data informed, but where data is necessary but not necessarily sufficient. The first is when there are new occurrences or step changes that occur in a community. Something happens and data tells you the historic, gives you a historic perspective, but it doesn't necessarily tell you as much as you would like to know about what's happening in the future. So one story about that in a project that we're working on. So there's an Intel plant that is being constructed in Columbus, Ohio. It is projected to need somewhere around 3,000 employees. Didn't exist before, and all of a sudden there's a demand for 3,000 new employees. That it exists in a statewide context that includes major investments from Honda, from Ford, from Altium, from others, that in the next few years is going to leave the state of Ohio some 25 or 30,000 manufacturing workers short. And so the state is working to develop solutions for that. New Growth is working with the Ohio Association of Community Colleges to develop a strategic plan on how the community colleges can participate and contribute to that solution. And you can imagine that, that while the manufacturing economy in Ohio is changing very rapidly, and so that's the sort of step change that I'm referring to. It's informed by historic data, but all of a sudden the situation is new. It's an inherently political exercise, bringing stakeholders together across a wide variety of stakeholder groups to determine what the path forward is going to be. Even an organization like the Ohio Association of Community Colleges, which has a point of view on community colleges and their role in the ecosystem, there's a tremendous amount of engagement involved in needing to figure out how to approach something like, where are these workers going to come from? So that's story number 1. Story number 2 is related to the pandemic. So we work with the Healthcare Sector Partnership in Cuyahoga County, which is Cleveland. And that includes the Cleveland Clinic and university hospitals and some major healthcare providers that are currently down about 17% of their nursing workforce. The nursing occupation was hit particularly hard in the pandemic, saw a lot of attrition, and those health systems are down some 17% of their nursing workforce. And this is a story that many communities around the country will recognize. How do they develop a nursing workforce or re-engage a nursing workforce that helps close that critical need in the community? And so we're working with the systems, and in particular engaging the education and training community in a multi-county area to develop strategies and approaches for addressing this, and it's a multifaceted issue. And so the importance of using strategic plans as a foundation for bringing stakeholders together, acknowledging the assets and the challenges, and devising routes forward.
And
Jenny,
Chris,
you're about to cut me off. I know I've been a little long-winded on strategic planning.
No, you aren't. It's just that we're so excited because, well, first of all, we're respectful of everybody's time. And the one thing that we all agree on is that we will be respectful of people's time. But I just want to say, and I apologize, that just so everyone knows, we plan to send out a ton more information, especially about working with New Group and Chris and his team. And just to let people know that we really are committed to this idea of helping people to ideate and to fund their innovations. And so that's what we're looking for. We've talked about practice groups, obviously practice groups around emerging technologies, practice groups around funding, right? The challenge of funding. But we want to go even deeper and have working groups, ecospheres dedicated to ideating together, to giving feedback on ideas, and even better, to cross-collaborating so that none of us are required to be the lead on one thing, but that we're working together as a community of practice to support each other in the work that needs to be done. And really, that's a great segue into our last invitation. Actually, we have two last invitations.
Absolutely.
The first one is that, you know, it leads right into everything we've talked about today is all about access in action. So it's not only what we want to do, talking the talk, but it's also about walking the walk. And that's really what everything in the Chicago convening is really gearing up toward. So we're excited. We have an invitation open to all of you. Join us at the annual convening. It takes place in Chicago with our hosts there. The idea of access and action, October 29th through 31st. And hopefully we get to deepen our skills, deepen our awareness, but also share the great work that we are going to do together as a community of practice throughout the year with incredible collaborators and partners like Chris Spence from New Growth, Jarrell Brown and the rest of the team from the Innovation Atlas. All of us here at TIES working together, again, to support you as individuals, to support you as ecosystems, as communities of practice, to support you in doing the great work that you do each and every day in your community. Jeremy, I'll turn it back over to you for that last hurrah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jenny. You know I'm really, really excited to be in Chicago with all of you. So excited that I'm wearing my 14-year-old daughter's deep neck crop top University of Chicago sweatshirt because it's the only one that I have. It's my favorite part of the entire year. I know it is for all of you too. Excuse me. So please make sure to keep your eyes open for the registration on that. I know that we've had a number of questions both in the chat and the Q&A tool, but as Jenny said, we like to end on time. We will make sure to get all of those questions about ecospheres and other things answered and those answers to you very, very quickly. And most importantly, I think I want to just mention again, I know Jenny mentioned it, but we have coming up, Lauren's going to drop in the chat the registration for our ideation session with Dr. Luther Moore III from NSF or members of his team. This is your opportunity to really help us think about what the next phase of ecosystem work is. What are we going to do? What are we going to evolve to? What challenges are we going to tackle? And most importantly, how are we going to fund all of that work? We're going to come up with all of that together. It's really incredibly exciting. So make sure to register for that. Again, that link is in the chat and it will be coming to you in your email as well. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you especially to Jan Morrison, CEO and founder of TIES, and our special guests, Chris Spence from New Growth and Jarrell Brown from the Henry Ford Innovation Atlas. Thank you also to your new ecosystem leadership team, Jenny, Frank, Mwape Trinell, and Noah Elzar-Russ. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you.